this collection that you see in the halls came from several different places, and we've been ever so fortunate to have the board that governs the community colleges here. At the time the building was built, all of the buildings in the district were built within 15 minutes of each other, so everyone could have an opportunity to go to college within 15 minutes of where they would live. And that was the scheme, but it was not only the scheme to provide a good place to find an education, it was also a place to liven up your spirits. A lot of the places around are not, well moneyed, to speak of. And so to come to a place that has beautiful furniture, beautiful architecture, and so forth they thought it would be a real plus, something that would bring us all upward. And so all of the architects and so forth, there were contests for each campus. And the ones that built this campus were delighted when they saw the whole property. They, first of all, had planned to build it right next to Illinois, but when the architects got here and saw what a beautiful landscape we have down in this area, decided to make the building work with that. Also on the board at that time was a woman whose husband was the chairman of that big electronics firm up north, Mrs. Merrimont. And she was the one that was the real pusher as far as getting art to every college. And so she is the one that really started off the collection with her donations to the colleges. One of the things that she did was to commission a number of local artists that were beginning to be known throughout the state and throughout the nation to do some work for us. Now, this particular piece, Bob Wade, has an unusual title. It says, "With a Little Help." Now, what that means is that actually Bob Wade was under a deadline, and he was working like crazy to finish this painting. This painting was done mostly not with airbrush, but spray can paint. And thus, if you see this in real life, you can get up close and you can see that it's a very fragile surface. What he was doing here, he couldn't finish in time, so he called on his friends to come in and help him finish the painting. So that's why it's called what it is. Sometimes we call it the flying wings or whatever, but now the reason why he did what he did, he was actually playing with our eyes a little bit. In aerial perspective, things that are up close to us are sharp, have a clean, hard edge. Those things further away are sort of fuzzy, and this is exactly what he did. And this is why when you see this piece and look at it from a distance, even from where you are, it's about natural size right here. But you can see these things look like they're floating away from the surface or flying. So that's the story behind that one. This piece by Jack Broughton. Now, of course, Robert Wade and Jack Broughton are both nationally known artists at this time, but at this particular time when this piece was made, and this is called Humpback Rainbow, and this one was actually in the Whitney Biennial, the year after it was made. We got this piece very luckily, and it went on a tour of Texas museums several years later, and it chose this piece to be the one illustrated on the catalog of the show, because it was one of his favorite. The title of the piece is Humpback Rainbow, and you might think, well, what on earth could this be about? He was living in Amarillo at the time, and they grow a lot of wheat and things like that in Amarillo. And so when you look at this painting in real life, these brush strokes here at the bottom are pretty sharp and clear. Those that go further and further back sort of blend in together just a bit. So he's doing that same perspective thing. Now also, if you think about the Texas plains, when in the summer, what happens? We have heat that rises up and things seem to wave a little bit sometimes, or come alive. And this is what I believe he was thinking about when he conceived this piece. That rainbow, rather than being the bow that we normally would see, takes on this funny wave. This piece is by internationally known artist that is no longer with us now, Leonard Baskin. This piece is a phenomenal piece. It's a woodcut, and it's sort of an oversized, overlarge piece. At the time it was made, there weren't presses this large to print these things, so it was all printed by rubbing with the back of a spoon and that sort of thing. A lot of folks around here call it the Chicken Man. Actually, the name of the thing is Man of Peace. Now, if you know a little something about the artist, you'll know that he was Jewish, and he did have relatives that served in concentration camps and so forth. And so this is a statement about war and about the situation. This thing he's holding is not a chicken, but rather a dove, the dove of peace. So it sometimes, if you know a little something extra, it helps to understand, what an artist is doing. This piece, you may have seen it in the library. This is by Robert Indiana, another internationally known artist. Indiana called this piece Love Wall. It's actually a tapestry. It's not a rug that you could get at Walmart, but rather a piece that was woven in the tapestry mills in France. Worked with the artists working directly with the artisans there. One thing to notice about this piece, the LOVE emblem with that O kind of at an angle there, became a very popular item in gift shops and things like this, but it actually became something that artists can thank Indiana for. He went to bat, and the copyright laws were changed to include artworks, not only printed material, but for artworks also. So anyone that has a copyright on a work of art, an artist, can get benefits from someone else producing it. So this piece has quite a significance because of that, I think. Besides just being a gorgeous piece you want to rub up against it. This next piece is by Rhonda Smith. Now this is one of the pieces that that was purchased from a competition we had here at Mountain View to actually promote the arts, what the Texas College Art Show was. And you'll see posters from the different shows in the library hanging in a group. That was a contest that involved artists that were freshman, sophomore, junior, senior, and then graduate. And they were judged in separate categories like that. So we got to choose from art from all over the state that came. What we did, we charged an entry fee, and we used that for purchase awards, which was great. It also helped pay for other things too, within that area. We were also getting money from the college to help pay for the jurors to come in. The jurors were nationally known artists and or art writers or art educators. So every year we would have someone else to come in and jury the show. We had everyone from pop artists to artists that were working in environmental art and so forth. But it was always interesting to have them here on campus. They would give a lecture. This particular piece is called "Don't I Make a Grand Burlesque?" This is actually a takeoff on, or paying homage to an artist, a French artist named Ang, that was always fascinated by the Oriental mystique. Burlesque actually was sort of a harem girl. And the picture that she is mimicking is this gorgeous nude woman that is surrounded by silks and satins and beautiful materials and so forth, looking sort of over her shoulder at us. Now this girl she did her self-portrait in that style, sort of, instead of silks and satins. Looks like she used her grandmother's quilt. Instead of this exotic fan, you'll notice that you really can't see it very well because of the projection that kind of faded out the feathers. But there are peacock feathers that she's holding in her hand that resemble that fan. What she's doing is paying homage to that artist, and it's also sort of a tongue-in-cheek commentary on the times that it was done. She looks more like she would be going out to play soccer or maybe even paint a painting than doing what she's doing. Now a lot of people wonder why she didn't finish it. Well, that's part of the idea of this particular piece, was that it lets us, as the spectators, finish the work. We know what should be there, and so we fill in the line, so to speak. Okay, you really have to kind of look hard to see this, because this is more of an abstracted piece, but you'll notice there are some figure-like things in this. This is entitled Coach by Paul Rogers Harris. Paul he did a number of paintings and things before he got involved in a lot of the collage work and working with computers that he's been known for of late. So this one actually is like one of the coaches in the NFL at that time. The coach that was here always wore a pork pie hat, which is a funny little hat. And so that's that white figure with a hat on. All those other guys are the football players that are surrounding him. anybody has any questions about anything here or wants to make a comment, please say so. Or if if you'd rather wait till we're through and then we'll have an informal conversation, that'd be fine too. This particular piece was by one of our students here early on, Kirk Hopper, and this is entitled "Goodbye, Goodbye." Sometimes an artist will say things in their artwork that are very difficult to say in real life. They can say it in a subtle way, or they can shout it. In this case, he was bemoaning the fact that one of his friends had committed suicide. And this is his way of saying goodbye to her. The blouse is satin, very, very lovely, very low key, the whole thing. The rose is, it may have been one of hers, I don't know. I don't know the entire story here, but we can supply a lot of that information from drawing from our experiences. And the goodbye, goodbye looks like it was just a stencil that he used and then scratched it out, sort of. So it's a very quiet piece, and it still conveys a sense of loss. This is one of the most controversial pieces of the collection. One of the most. This is by Kenneth B. Gore. It's entitled "Honest Motel and the Theseus Clones." Now, what Mr. Gore has done is to actually, he's doing several different things. I think this is kind of a funny painting. But one of the things he's doing is paying homage to that Greek myth of the Minotaur. Theseus, if you remember, was the guy that came running in and actually saved the maidens and so forth from the Minotaur. Well, here, the Theseus clones are like Texas Rangers coming in out of the woodwork, so to speak. This guy is actually coming through the wall. You know that they're Texas Rangers because of the spurs they're wearing, and of course, if you look in the back pocket, he's got a can of snuff. He's flashing his badge, and then we see the figure of the Minotaur and the lovely maiden. Well, the Minotaur is actually, he's also paying homage to another artist that we know very well, Picasso. This bull comes directly out of that great painting that Picasso did. The bull, in that case, was representing war and the horror that was happening to the people of the small town of, what is the name of that painting? Guernica, exactly. So, if you'll notice, that bull is kind of looking sideways and front ways at the same time. Okay, that's that Picasso cubist thing. Now, some people think that here this guy is raping a girl. Well, she may not be quite as innocent as it looks. If you look here on the bed, there's some cash. So you have to draw your own conclusion on that. Mr. Gore was really interested in pattern, not in so much showing actual space, but rather what pattern does to our eyes, pattern and color. Okay. Phyllis King, stuffed chairs and animation. This is the first anyone that has ever sat in a recliner and it takes on a life of its own, you know exactly what I mean. You feel so helpless in this thing that won't sit upright or whatever.
Hey, is that a painting?
Pardon?
Is that a painting?
No, this is not a painting. This is a ceramic sculpture. Like I say, this is one of the first sculptures or little ceramic pieces that we purchased for the collection. And it's you can set them up in a lot of different ways, but the way it should be set up is that the chair suddenly keeps going backward and backward and backward, and you lose all sense of control. Okay, how many people in here, when they've seen these, have thought this was part of a air conditioning unit? I felt just about the same way the first time I saw this guy's work. This is the very start of the minimalist art movement, is when this came about. This guy's name is Raphael Martini Endozzi. When we got these pieces, he was going by Raphael Martini. But that sound has a nice ring to it, Martini. At any rate, these pieces, there are a group of them. There should be 5 in all. When you look at them, they do look sort of, well, they're just kind of right there. But then you look closer, and the more you look, the more that you can really see. One of the things that I discovered pretty soon after I started looking at these was that they all were composed of 2 units each. And those 2 units, there was at least, there was one curved edge on that unit. In this case, it's underneath that one that's sticking out, and that long piece that's underneath there. One of the things about, let's place that back, and you can see that slightly curved surface there underneath that cube-like thing. One of the things I was wondering, well, what's going on, and why is this art? Well, I still have trouble with minimalist art. But this I began to like very much, because I noticed that one of the things that happened was every time I went out into the Kiva patio area, these things looked a little different. When the light was different, they were different. When it was raining, they had a completely different look about them. They're all made of aluminum, and the surface is real soft, sanded-like. They look like they'd be pretty lightweight, but actually the largest one is about 400 pounds. They're built of steel. There was a support structure of steel underneath the aluminum, and that is what attaches it to the wall. This piece had just come from an exhibit at the Museum of Art at Dallas, and the artist was looking for someplace to exhibit these pieces for a short time, so he gave them to us on loan. He liked them so much in this spot because they did highlight, exactly everything that the piece was supposed to do, that it became a permanent loan. So we've got artwork a number of different ways, sometimes by donation, sometimes by direct purchase, sometimes by just coercion. We persuaded people to maybe give something to the collection. can't tell you how many people have asked me if that was painted on plywood. Actually, the whole thing is painted on canvas. And this was done not with oil paint, which I thought this guy would be working with, because the use of shadows and everything was very delicate, a lot of shading. No, it's acrylic. This was amazing. He was one of our students also. Tom Craw. This is entitled Gardening Reminder. He had a sense of humor about him, and it's like he was just out in his garage with these things hanging on the wall and all. And his wife came up and pinned a little note to him on the wall that says, "And don't forget to mow the yard, W." W was he called her wife. And so W was wife. This guy went on to do some other things that were super real. One of the things he experimented with was Christmas lights. You can imagine painting lights anyway, but Christmas lights arranged in patterns on a board of some sort. The way he did this usually was to set up a still life exactly like he wanted it, next to the easel on which he had his canvas set up. And he worked with canvas, stretched canvas panels. And he would take photographs of the piece as it went along. By the end of the time that he was working on a particular piece, you look at the photograph and you could not tell if it was the real thing or the painted image. He was just amazing. This is also one of our former students that went on to work with neon light. He, if you've ever been down to San Antonio to the museum there that's set up in the old brewery building, you'll notice a piece of his. It's sort of encases the elevator shaft. And so as you go up to the third, fourth, fifth floor, you encounter this changing pattern of neon, that he has done. He was very interesting student. This actually was the first piece that was purchased by the college. When we had to let go of the Texas College Art Show, the president said, "Okay, well, what I can do is to give you so much money to purchase artwork with, but it has to be either student artwork or it has to be work of a student that has gone on and made a name for themselves outside of the school." So this guy, we knew about what he was doing, and so we pursued it, and sure enough, he was delighted to do the piece for us. So it's permanently installed in that hallway. Yes.
Why did you have to let go of the Texas Art Show?
Funding. At the time, we had about $5,000 that was used for expenses, like the juror expenses, paying for their airfare, and if they had a little expense of, the expense to get them here, whatever. And so the money just wasn't there. And so we said, okay, we'll see if we can do something else. Now, from that, the League for Innovation show, the nationwide show, came about because John took that idea of what we were doing with the Texas College Art Show and presented it at this national meeting of the consortium of about 30 colleges across the nation. And they said, yeah, wow, let's try that. Except what we did was not to have real artworks shipped to us, but we did it in a virtual manner, so to speak. In other words, they sent slides. Things were judged by slides, and then we produced a catalog. And the catalog is really the show. So, get into that. Well, what do you know? There it is. This is this piece by Martin Campos, also one of our students, won second in the nation for this piece. Many of you have seen this. This is up on that in the staircase going to the upper floor by the English department. Okay, it's actually really big. But people have wondered what this was about. Again, this was entitled Reflections of Karma. The story goes that Carmen actually was in some art classes, as was Martin. But Carmen had a boyfriend and was involved that way, but somehow Martin was might have been a little taken with her. And so he decided that he needed to maybe show her that this was what he was interested in. One of his friends took a spontaneous photograph of Carmen laughing. And so this is how this large image came about. And some people say, well, what about Grace Kelly up there? Actually, it's taken from a stamp, and these are all images of Grace Kelly. Well, he compared the beauty and grace of this girl to Grace Kelly, who was an icon. You know, it was really neat. And then he also was very highly influenced by some Renaissance artists. And so you see the drawing in the background, looks like a torso of a male, is actually representing him. Now, see that little blue thing up there? About where his heart should be? Okay, there's a music box there that actually plays a little tune if you turn it on from the back of the canvas, not canvas, but panels. So that's the story on that. Okay, now what's interesting, this is what those two people look like today. Martin and Carmen, they never did get together, but it makes a good story, doesn't it? That piece looks smaller than it actually is. I mean, smaller than it actually is. It's real tall. It's about at least, what do you say, probably 8 to 9, 10 feet tall in that giant staircase. Okay, this is a piece by Will Johnson. Some of you may have seen Will's show here last year. He had a sculpture show going on upstairs and downstairs, which I thought was a really neat thing. Will was a student here too, and one of those winners of the local competition, to purchase his artwork from the lead show. This is entitled Amarillo. Now, this can be read several different ways. Actually, Amarillo, the word itself means yellow, right? Okay, and the land in that area is sort of yellow, and sometimes when the dust blows really hard, it becomes sort of red and yellow all over. Now this girl looks like she may live in one of these houses over here, maybe a sharecropper or a hand on a large farm where they lived in these little outbuildings. Yet she has the sweetest smile. It looks as if she's saying, I've got someone to love and someone to love me. So everything's good with the world. So this one right now is housed off campus. One of the used to be dean fine arts and so forth here. Has it in her office. She's now over at Eastfield as dean of instruction, and so it's on temporary loan to them from our collection. We'll change pace here. This is by Keith Puryear. It's entitled Ladder. Anybody been over to the Modern over in Fort Worth? Yes. You remember one of those pieces over there that is really outstanding? It's the ladder, right. It's Jacob's ladder. His name is Puryear too, but they're not the same Puryear. This is Keith. He was one of our students. This came before that other piece, which is a sculpture. But it conveys similar feeling, perhaps. This one, to me, has always felt like he was maybe in a kind of a dark spot in his life. And a ladder is a way to get out. You know, if you're in a hole, that's one of the ways to get out of that well. So you never can tell exactly what's happening over there on the left side. It could be a cityscape, it could be something else. You know, a swatch from hell from a Bosch painting.
Are they related?
No, they're not. No. The Puryear over in Fort Worth is a mature artist has been working out of, I believe he's in San Francisco, is where he's currently working. Sometimes, you know, artwork conveys something that's not very pleasant. Or it just is really hard to look at because we always bring our own experiences forward when we look at artwork. We become part of the process. So when we see this image, we know that probably this girl has done some damage to herself. And it pains us to see, you know, what she probably has gone through. It's very simple. It's not a painting, it's a photograph. It's a photograph by a fellow by the name of Jeff Junkin. And it doesn't have a title. So we can make up the title we want to on this. So there are all sorts of things that make us uncomfortable. This is another piece that does that too. This is by James Bland. This is a photograph from an album cover, actually a CD cover. The cover was for a CD name entitled penned by the band Tablet. It's a local group. James is a phenomenal photographer. He was a student here also, and he became known, very well known, among bands across the nation. When they'd come to play in Deep Ellum at the clubs, he would be right there recording what he saw. And so a number of images of bands that you see, everything from Red Hot Chili Peppers to just anyone like this group. Sometimes he actually composed images like this that were striking, and yet it makes us feel a little creepy. He actually did this, and I'm going to give away the secrets, by using what a lot of the movie folks do with the blue screen. He used a styrofoam head, a wig head thing, and that's what the insects were pinned to. And then he superimposed that image using the magic of digital imaging onto the face. And so we get this image that is just kind of creepy, but intriguing at the same time. It's like when we pass a wreck on the highway, it's just real hard not to look. Totally different from that is this piece by Margaret Hegner. This is a quiet green space. Does anyone recognize that quiet green space? Yeah, it's the Kiva area. Although it's a little cozier than it usually looks, isn't it? Yeah. It looks like it's, the plants are all around and all, but this is what it was to her. But she enjoyed making it sort of a fantasy Kiva area with the umbrellas and things. This is a very small painting, about a foot high and about 8 inches wide. But lovely. This is another piece that is very pleasant to look at. Lois Crocker was one of our students here that started coming here, and they almost became a club-like thing for a number of women that were in this group that took watercolor from John to start with, and they kept coming as like a club. And she became so skilled at what she was doing that I think people were truly amazed that she wasn't the teacher. If you look at the way she's done this, usually the way she painted was from a photograph. She would select a photograph or would take her own photographs and then paint very, very carefully, draw it very lightly in pencil, and then most of the work on that, the shading and so forth, was directly with watercolor. If anyone has worked with watercolor before, it's a very demanding sort of medium. So if you make a mistake, it's just too bad. It's going to be there. So it shows a tremendous amount of skill and discipline. You notice this is another way an artist might look at cactus. This was done by Kevin Marshall. Now this is a print. This is a color intaglio, and I think it's quite handsome. It takes liberties with the cactus itself, of course, making it becoming something else, perhaps part of the landscape. But it's something I think we have enjoyed around here. This piece Clayton Hurt. It's entitled Blues Man. And most of the time it resides down in the music department, of course, right next to where the guitarists hang out. And this is completely made of wood, an old wooden chair, and built it up from there. Now he draws direct influence from a Dallas artist, David Bates, who also has worked in this way. And so he was inspired, certainly. If you look around very closely in our collection, you'll also see a piece that his mother did, Cindy Hurt, and she's still an artist working in the system in Dallas. And it's a totally different kind of thing, but maybe you can scope it out sometimes. Sometimes an artist, again, pays homage to a particular artist in history. In this case, Austin Haynes. This was sort of a class project that I understand. The teacher gave them images, photographs of different things, and they were to become that other artist and sort of do it as that artist would do it. If you look very, very closely, there's all sorts of writing in there. It looks like one of Leonardo da Vinci's notebooks. And one of the things Leonardo did that was sort of interesting, he didn't want anybody to read what he was writing, so he would write it backwards. I don't think Austin wrote this backwards. He just wrote it in a way that most people can't read it, but some people, if they have the time and inclination, could read exactly what he had to say about some of his teachers and so forth. So, check it out. The title of this piece is Ode to Leo's Dog. Now this piece was done again by one of our former students. And you notice a lot of our collection is by a lot of our students. That's because with the League for Innovation show, we draw or have drawn a lot of our purchases from that show. And that show is one in which all of the best work usually for the fall semester is shown, because we want to show up the other colleges. Well, sometimes we're just the best, so there. So this piece, this artist did not do while she was here. She actually did this while she went on to see what other colleges could offer in the way of painting class. And so she was asked to paint, something that would remind her of a certain time of the year, and so forth. And so this is entitled Autumn. And she just gathers stuff together in a nice still life. And she plays with things like some of the well-known artists like Janet Fish, the New York artist, that likes to work with glass and the reflections and so forth with glass. I think that she worked beautifully. She is African American and has used the cloth on the table, and the way that she's handled the shadows and so forth of the leaves on the wall reflect that same sort of pattern that the cloth is giving off. self-portrait as anything an artist does is like a self-portrait. Show you a couple of pieces of ceramics that this is not something that is functional. You couldn't serve punch out of this, for instance, but you can enjoy it visually. This is a special firing where it creates that luster on the surface there. So this is just a nice organic shape. This piece is by internationally known artist Paul Salmer. He was, this was a gift to the college. He produced a lot of his work by the tear and slash method. He's one of those that was considered abstract expressionist in clay. And one of the ways he worked was to throw a piece of clay that he had flattened out onto the floor or onto a mound of sand and stomp on it or hit it with a paddle or something to make the marks and creases and holes that he makes in it. This is by one of our students, Robert Salazar. Cock and Crow is the title of this. Robert, I think, was influenced a great deal by Salter, not by the piece that we saw, but rather some of his later works that are up off the floor, so to speak. He really enjoys working with texture, and the glazes that he comes up with, or finishes that he comes up with, are really outstanding. Robert is still working and is a very active artist. He does both painting and sculpture still. This is the Garden of Learning, and this was composed by Brad Goldberg, and it goes on and on all in the Kiva area. If we look at it closely, it looks like a mountain. And this is what he came up with. We had a sort of a contest to see who could come up with the best environmental piece that would fit here in the Kiva. There were a number of well-known, nationally known artists that competed. But he was the one that came up with this piece that we really enjoyed. You can't see, let me see, yes. Throughout this whole area, there were pieces of red granite that had all these handprints in it. Plus, on the mountain itself, as you got higher on the mountain, it became more complex as far as what was put there. It was sayings from physicists, things from people in the arts, things from English, from all of our culture. So this is why that is called the Garden of Learning. The pieces is blasted in this red granite, Texas granite, just like they do at a place that makes markers for cemeteries. The same process. It's a stenciling kind of thing. The handprints are all people that are associated with the college, students, teachers, the custodians, secretaries, everybody contributed to this. And so it was a lot of fun to look around and see if we could locate our handprints, because they aren't marked as to who's who.
How long did it take to make that?
took him at least 6 months. 6 months, and actually later than that to finish it up. It involved a lot of moving of those big things. There was a guy that worked on a crane. That's all he did was to move huge rocks around. I'm sorry? Exactly. So it was a celebration of the college. Now, when you go out there now, don't look at the signs, that said dangerous and slippery. Well, of course it is, because water is coming over the surface of rocks. But go up, if you're inclined to climb the thing, and read what is written on those stones. This is an archival photograph of 3 people here. This is John Cowan, Patricia Forrest, and Willie Woodward. Must have been, some young guy. This piece, and this is one of the last ones here that we're going to show. This is untitled, but it was when John had just been diagnosed with AIDS, and so it was really a sort of an acceptance, of fate, what was going to happen. What this red figure was actually from one of the images that came about with the, thank you, I need that. One of the images that came about with the diagnosis, and this is exactly the way John stood, I'd recognize that anywhere. He was also doing a series involving the scope of a rifle. And you know what that means. He felt like he was maybe in the scope. He was targeted. But it has a couple of other things too. He worked with collage first to come up with these ideas. And one of the images he came up with was an eclipse. And you can see the eclipse of the moon and the light coming behind it. No, the eclipse of the sun, sorry. So he did not have a title for this piece, but I always thought of this as him walking unafraid into the unknown. Sometimes that sort of thing happens to other artists too. They try to deal with loss. This was my way of dealing with that loss. That year, I lost 4 friends. One AIDS, John AIDS, and then there was one liver cancer, another was lung cancer, and there was another death. And I felt like I needed to pull in all the stops, things that could help protect me and boost me up at this time. So this is entitled Self-Portrait with Guardian Figure. I, for a number of years, used the image of the hand as an image of myself because I'd used my hands mostly in ceramics and sculpture. But I started with painting too. And so that's myself back there on that kind of blue-black wall, which also forms sort of a halo to that figure in front. That's the guardian figure, maybe a guardian angel that has wings rather than arms. But that was my reaction to that particular situation. Okay, this is the final piece. This is another one of my favorite artists, one that I know best. This is entitled The Sailor's Dream. And if you look at that little boat looks like it's in trouble. There's no rudder, there's no sail to help it along. Not only that, there's a bonfire going on in the boat itself. Not only that, it looks like a storm is coming because of the way the smoke is blowing off that fire and the clouds in the background. This was in a show, and several people came up to me and they said, I know exactly how that feels. I'm a sailor, and I know exactly, the feeling of that, what is happening here. Some people have asked me, well, whose hands are those? Are they God's hands? Well, they could be. Are they Poseidon's hands? They're going to help lift him up when that boat gives way. Could be. That's how the visitor or the viewer gets involved. I think that every artwork needs that person to see it and react to it. If there's no reaction, it falls flat.